It's 6 p.m. Eastern. It's time for the wrap. And welcome to the Daily Wrap. I'm your host, Joe Concha, joined tonight by co-host of Steele and Unger on Sirius XM Radio, Rick Unger, Philly powerhouse attorney, Heather Hansen, and finally, president of Scheinkoff Communications, Hank Scheinkoff is here. Welcome all, looking well on this Tuesday night. Let's get right to the Daily Download. And as you may have heard, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton finally speaking to the press today from the United Nations about her personal email account for state business.
When I got to work as Secretary of State, I opted for convenience to use my personal email account, which was allowed by the State Department, because I thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails instead of two. Looking back, it would have been better if I'd simply used a second email account and carried a second phone, but at the time, this didn't seem like an issue.
Okay, not sure the former Secretary of State is aware, but she could have had more than one email account on the new cell phone. Anyway, I digress. Okay, enough of the pleasantries. Let's hear from the American media.
Madam Secretary, State Department rules at the time you were Secretary were perfectly clear that if a State Department employee was going to be using private email, that employee needed to turn those emails over to the State Department to be preserved on government computers. Why did you not do that? Why did you not go along with State Department rules until nearly 2 years after you left office?
Uh-oh, it's on, Madam Secretary.
First, the laws and regulations in effect when I was Secretary of State allowed me to use my email for work. That is undisputed. Secondly, under the Federal Records Act, records are defined as recorded information regardless of its form or characteristics. And in meeting the record-keeping obligations, it was my practice to email government officials on their state or other .gov accounts so that the emails were immediately captured and preserved.
Okay, how about emailing classified information?
I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. So I'm certainly well aware of the classification requirements and did not send classified material.
Okay, so she turned over 30,000 plus emails that were State Department related, but as you heard, none of those emails were classified. Heather Hansen, I got to hear your thoughts on that.
My first question is, what did she say that she couldn't have said when this all first came to part? You know, last night you asked Lenny Davis, why the wait? And today I was hoping for some big explosion as to the reason that we haven't heard from her yet. The fact that she waited so long and this is all she gave us was surprising to me. The other thing that was interesting is the numbers here. More than half of her emails were personal. I know that if that were true at my job, I would not be doing very well at my job. The fact that she's spending so much time doing personal emails is a little bit suspect. But at the end of the day, I think that this is, until we know what's in the emails, until we know whether what's in the emails is incriminating, this is an issue that should now be put to rest and something else should be the focus of our going forward, because this is really sort of nothing.
Rick, I found it interesting that when they asked, okay, will you turn over the server? She said, that ain't going to happen.
Right, right. Well, you know, look, I mean, there are a couple of interesting things that I've been able to glean. For starters, as odd as it seems that she would say, you know, I didn't want to carry two phones, because you make a good point, you can have two accounts on one. It turns out that within government, certainly at that point, different departments had different rules. There were, in fact, like the Office of the Presidency, the Executive Office, you were not allowed to have two accounts on one phone, even if it was your phone. So she would have done herself a favor if she had made it clear if that was the case in the State Department. She didn't say anything, so it leaves all of us to go, hey, wait a second, you know, you could. The reality is there was nothing new. The one thing that nobody's hitting on, which I don't get, is why aren't they making a bigger fuss out of the fact that she erased her personal emails? She didn't separate them, she erased them.
Those were the personal emails.
Well, that's obviously the question that's going to be asked. Look, you know, if you're for Hillary, this is already boring. If you are against Hillary, you will now come up with any number of conspiracies as to why she erased emails. And if you're sort of in the middle, you're not even paying attention yet.
Do you think it is boring to Democrats, though, that this is just the same old,
It's
same
going
old?
to get boring.
Because it's what I heard today seemed to be, well, who else do we have on that bench that you
Well,
mentioned
that's right.
last week?
That's right.
You know, do you think this weakens her in any way as far as her candidacy?
No, not
Hank,
at
do
all.
you agree with that?
I think she's in better shape than she's ever been, you know, because after this, what will happen is the Hillary lovers will say, wait a second, of course you're banging her around. You did it before, you did it to him, you keep doing it. It's the same thing. Now she can talk about that vast right-wing conspiracy and will have some value. And the Republicans, I have many Republican friends, but one thing is sure, give it an opportunity, they will always snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. You know,
And
they
we
do it
know
all the
how.
time.
Unless there's something to be had in the deleted emails, because the fact
Well,
that she
that's
just kind
true.
of said in passing, well, these emails I deleted. I don't go around deleting everything the minute that I end a day, you know. So there's got to be some question there. And if the Benghazi investigation gets access to those deleted emails, there may be a smoking gun. But for right now, we don't know that to be
But
the case.
to Hank's point, which I agree with what he was saying, I'm already seeing how the Republicans will snatch defeat from the jaws of victory on this. This is a great issue for them. And yet already today, I'm hearing any number of Republicans going, no. Obama knew. Obama knew. He emailed with her. He knew she was using. Who gives a you-know-what? You actually think the president actually takes time to look at email addresses? I don't take time. I can't imagine he does. So already they're trying to go a bridge too far. They're going to ruin a good thing like they always do because they go one step too far and screw it all up.
Do you believe that over 30,000 emails, she didn't send one classified document?
Yeah, I can actually, that's the easiest thing that she said to believe, because I don't think anybody would ever want to send a classified document via an email. So yeah, I think of all the things she said that you might want to be concerned about or not believe, that's the easiest.
What do
to
those
believe.
emails consist of if you're not shading
Communications.
classified information?
Are your emails classified data? So what do all your emails?
I'm not the Secretary of State.
It doesn't matter.
I'm not planning the killing of
Well,
Osama bin Laden.
It doesn't matter. You just don't use email for those discussions. Those are happening in the Situation Room.
No,
not
you
by
said no one
email.
has conversations on the phone yesterday anymore. You said everybody emails everything.
Fine, but they still have Situation Room meetings. I didn't say she even had them on the phone. I don't think she'd have them on the phone, anything that was classified.
She was not in the Situation Room for half of her career because of the frequent flyer
Well,
miles
and
that she
that's
built
where-
up.
and that's
There
where
had
you-
to be some classified information that went back and forth.
I
I got to
seriously
believe.
doubt it.
10 seconds.
Well, and that's why you wonder how does she determine what's personal? And that's going to be a big question here because she's the one making that determination and nobody else.
Guys, we got to go. I think this is not the last of this by a long shot. Coming up next, Republicans in the Senate sent a cautionary letter to Iran. We'll discuss that next. This is the Daily Wrap only on Newsmax TV. And welcome back to the show. I'm Joe Concha along with Rick Unger, Heather Hansen, and Hank Scheinkoff. So yesterday, 47 Republican members of the Senate, led by freshman Senator Tom Cotton, released an open letter to the leadership in Iran. And here's what it said. It has come to our attention while observing your nuclear negotiations with our government that you may not fully understand our constitutional system. Anything not approved by Congress is a mere executive agreement. The next president could revoke such an executive agreement with the stroke of a pen and a phone, and future Congresses could modify the terms of the agreement at any time. End quote. Senator Tom Cotton joined Morning Joe today on MSNBC to discuss why.
Well, Joe, I and 46 other senators are simply speaking for the American people. Your own network just released a poll that said 71% of Americans don't think a deal that the president is negotiating will stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. The point we're making to Iran's leaders, who, if you talk to many Iran experts, will say don't understand our Constitution, is that if Congress doesn't approve a deal, Congress won't accept a deal, now or in the future.
Vice President Joe Biden, very critical of the letter, saying it was designed to undercut the Obama administration. Senator Tom Cotton disagrees.
No, we're making sure that Iran's leaders understand that if Congress doesn't approve a deal, Congress won't accept a deal because we're committing to stopping Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Joe Biden, as Barack Obama's own Secretary of Defense has said, has been wrong about nearly every major foreign policy and national security decision in the last 40 years. Moreover, if Joe Biden so respects the dignity of the institution of the Senate, he should be insisting that the president submit any deal to approval of the Senate, which is exactly what he did on numerous deals during his time in the Senate.
And in the end, Mr. Cotton boils it all down to this.
Iran's leaders have to understand that while the president negotiates agreements under our Constitution, Congress approves agreements. And if Congress doesn't approve agreement, then no future Congress nor future president is bound by that agreement, just as Barack Obama himself has repudiated agreements that were not approved in a formal fashion by the United States Congress.
Now, Democrats now screaming bloody murder, but if you remember back in 2007, the Bush administration went nuts when then Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi visited Syrian President Assad while the White House was trying to isolate Assad from providing support to insurgents in Iraq. So, Hank, are Democrats in Congress being hypocritical right now?
Oh, no. I think once Senator Cotton's spaceship lands from Zartron onto planet Earth and he finds his footing and gets out of his spacesuit and meets the Earthlings, he'll have a very different point of view. I definitely want a guy in the Senate, a bunch of other guys who have no foreign policy experience in most cases, deciding what to do and interfering with negotiations that are very sensitive with a country that may have a nuclear weapon. That's what you want every day. You don't want that. You want to be able to talk about it after the fact and negotiate when the negotiations are on and make a deal about the treaty, whether you pass it or not. But you don't want to interfere with the President of the United States because it makes us look like weaklings. Now, in Zartron, they are very weak. Here in the world, the planet, we work out, we take vitamins, but what they do is something else.
You ever notice that everything in space starts with a Z? I mean, what is that? It's
cotton begins with a C, Z. It's like a C. And the language of Zartronians, it's a Z. It's not a C.
I think Hank is right, except that the fear is that they're not going to have that opportunity because this administration has been known all across the board for not allowing Congress to do their job and for making all kinds of orders, whether it be domestic or international, having to do with amnesty, having to do with Obamacare, having to do with this, and not having to do with the release of Bo Bergdahl, all kinds of things, not allowing Congress to have a say. And so while I agree that it may not have been the best idea, I think it is a sense of desperation that they have and that they have to get the word out there and do it in the way that they can in order to best put their foot forward because, Rick, the president is doing everything he can to stop them from doing their job.
Clearly, the way to solve that is to advise a foreign enemy in the middle of a negotiation. How else would you go about solving that problem? What's more, if you're freaking out that the president has violated the Constitution and overstepped his bounds with an executive order that's now making its way through the court, obviously the response is to say, dear leaders of Tehran, dear enemy, here's how you beat the crap out of our president.
No,
it's unbelievable.
So your theme, Rick, is two wrongs don't make a right?
Thank you. Let me make a few points. Number one, I never thought I would get a grin out of something an Iranian foreign minister would say, but yet I did this morning when he pointed out, dear members of the Senate, maybe there's something you don't understand about international law. You are wrong. When your president makes a deal, international law requires that you honor it.
Or, to play contrarian, does he see this as such a sweet deal that they have so much leverage right now that he loves the fact, he doesn't want this deal being upset?
What the Senate did was play right into the hardliners' point of view over Iran, who this foreign minister has to deal with, because he is trying to make a deal.
That's what they wanted to do.
Well, good for them.
Because
they have sided with our biggest enemies.
No, because maybe this deal is a bad deal.
Maybe it is.
Maybe
it is. Then bring it to the American people.
Bring it to the Senate.
Don't tube it.
They cannot pass this and make it into law without Senate approval, number one. This is an international treaty. Number two, well, they cannot.
He's trying not to.
But he can't do that.
I agree with you.
There's a lot of things he
can't do. So go to court and stop him. Go to the Supreme Court.
You do
I mean,
not
this
go
is
to
akin
your
to
enemy.
me. This is extraordinary. This is like being in a foxhole with somebody who you're with, fighting someone else and shooting the guy with you in the foxhole first. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Let's go down a line because I want to keep our eye on the ball on a very important part of this whole story, which is, would you make this deal, Hank?
I haven't seen what the deal is, but I have a
the generalities of it.
I would never have, frankly, were I a foreign policy person in this administration, I would never have permitted the Iranian nuclear activities to have gone as far as they've gone. Because they're dangerous to the world. Never mind Israel. First stop may not be Tel Aviv. First stop is Riyadh. That's what no one understands.
But this is an attempt to stop it. This is the only, what else are they supposed to do? We're going to talk a little bit later about one of the many ways in which this administration just cuts Congress out of the deal and does things that they don't tell them about and does things that are arguably unconstitutional and illegal.
Then.
So
would you make the deal, Rick, was the question.
I'm going to stick with the fact that I do not know what the deal is. I don't care how many people leak it. Now, but I do want anybody who says that they wouldn't make a deal, just to tell me, just explain to me how no deal is better, because if there's no deal, we know that they continue with their enriching program. That's the only thing we know for sure.
That's not accurate. They've been going on with their enriching program all the time.
Right.
They've used this as delaying tactic,
So
put new
why-
cyclotrons in
so
place.
how does
and
no
they're getting,
deal stop
they're getting
that?
One at a
nuclear
time.
material from the Russians,
How
which is
does no
extraordinary.
deal stop that? That's my point.
More sanctions, less money.
More sanctions, less
Because
dough.
it's worked so well.
Well, it's
Well,
better
it has,
than
actually.
it did. It
Really?
was working until
was
they
working
backed off
until
the
you-
sanctions.
we've gone back it off.
Excuse me. When the Bush administration wanted to make it, or I'm sorry, when the Europeans wanted to make a deal and Bush wouldn't let them, they had 250 centrifuges. Today they have 19,000. How you're going to tell me the sanctions have worked? That's preposterous.
Well, cyclotrons are a growth business. They
Yeah,
tend to,
okay.
they
So
tend to
you can
multiply
make
by
a joke about
themselves
it,
as
but let's not
mitosis.
fool people. It didn't work. The sanctions did not
They're
work,
like
and more
more-
sanctions
like
will not work.
More on this
They're
a
hydrants.
little bit later, at least as far as the go-it-alone strategy from both branches, it appears. Coming up next, President Obama takes on Governor Scott Walker. This is the Daily Wrap. And welcome back to the Wrap. I'm Joe Concha, joined by Rick Unger, Heather Hansen, and Hank Sheinkoff. President Obama now breaking his silence about the 2016 presidential election, and guess who he doesn't like? Governor Scott Walker. In a statement yesterday, the president hammering Mr. Walker over Wisconsin's new law that prohibits unions from forcing its members to pay dues. The president saying in part, and we quote, "It's inexcusable that over the past several years, just when middle-class families and workers need the kind of security that that's been a sustained, coordinated assault on unions led by powerful interests and their allies in government. So I'm deeply disappointed that a new anti-worker law in Wisconsin will weaken rather than strengthen workers in the new economy." Governor Walker responding with his own statement yesterday. We have the quotes there as well. On the heels of vetoing Keystone Pipeline legislation, which would have paved the way to create thousands of quality middle-class jobs, the president should be looking to states like Wisconsin as an example for how to grow our economy. Rick, the latest Gallup poll on unions finds that Americans do support unions by 71%. Look at that.
They support unions?
Well, but 71%, said they would vote for right to work laws. And by the way, 84% thinks that Hop of the Movie with Jack Nicholson was too long, but still a quality flick. So that said, should the president just stayed out of the debate?
Somebody suggested, it may have been you, that we should just put a picture of Scott Walker up and watch the steam blow out of my ears for 6 minutes.
But he won
'Cause
CPAC,
that's
according
about
to
right.
you, yesterday.
That's about right. Yeah, he
or
did.
last week.
Look, I mean, what can I say about this? I think that it's just a crime that in Wisconsin, which is where unions began, that this would happen. You have to understand what well, let me finish. My goodness. You have to understand what a right to work law is. And basically what it does is it allows people, under the law as it currently stands, you don't have to join a union. You do have to pay dues to a union if they are negotiating on your behalf. So all right to work laws do is it says you get a free ride. You don't have to join the union, but you get all the benefits because the union shop's still going to negotiate for you and you get all the goodies and you don't have to pay. And they only do this to take money out of the pockets of the unions because what do unions support? Democrats. So it's the most cynical thing in the world. There's nothing I can do to stop it. I think it's a shame in an era where people are not being paid what they should that we're doing this, but that's America today.
You know that unions are not what they used to be.
I agree, but
so,
we ought to be strengthening them, not destroying them.
no, they're just not. It's just not serving the good that they were supposed to
Should
serve.
be.
But it's not going to happen, and it's not the case. And as that poll showed, the majority of Americans see that as the reality. The thing that I thought was interesting about this, I think
Do you
the
ever
best
belong
thing
to a
that
union,
ever.
by the way?
No.
Well, I have. Have you?
But
course.
when? How long ago? It has changed
It's
drastically.
changed since Patco because Reagan destroyed that union, and that set the standard for what people get away with. And if you think it's really worked out
exactly
well,
right.
you need to look at the income and wage gap and
Thank
wealth
you.
gap in this country.
Thank you.
Unions created the middle class in this country. You want to know why we don't have a middle class today? Because we don't have unions negotiating and forcing people in power to give up.
Well,
you
gotta
have
be-
to
there's
share
gotta-
what you got.
There's got to be something new put in place because the unions,
how about
as they
negotiations
currently
and contracts?
exist, but the unions as they currently
Negotiations and contracts are always good.
Democratic fundraiser is really what they are. The thing
Well,
that
I didn't tell Taft and Hartley to go past the 14, Taft-Hartley 14B. I
By
didn't
the
tell
way,
them to
you
do
want to
that
complain?
and take on the unions.
Complain about public unions because you have a legitimate point.
I
But don't
think-
destroy private unions at the same
I
time.
think that they both, there are, and like I said, not only do the majority of Americans agree, but the majority of states have now passed similar laws. But the
Well,
thing
not
that
the
is most
majority,
interesting
no.
to me about
Many
this is
have.
the fact that Obama comes out and criticizes Walker, I think does nothing more than lift him up in the eyes of his fans.
You're right
Let's
about
go
Or
back to the
people
right
on
to work
Republican
issues. The
side.
reason why governors are passing laws such as these wherever they can is because they don't want to pay the cost of public employee health care and public employee pensions. They want to have that fight, that's fine. So you don't want to have to fight and negotiate with your employees. So what you do is you circumvent that negotiation and you pass a law to make it impossible to negotiate. That's exactly not what conflict resolution is about. That's very good in coercive persuasion environments, which are close to you know what, like it's called not democracy. That's fine, but this is a fix. If you want to have a blow up in this country, keep screwing working people out of what they got. Keep making it impossible for people to get in the middle class. Without unions, there's no way to get there. It's just that simple.
How does Scott Walker keep getting reelected in Wisconsin if
Right.
he's doing such horrible things in a blue state, no less?
Agreed.
Well, first of all, it's not the blue state it used to be.
That's true.
Second of all,
When was the
he
last
got-
time it went
wait a minute.
Democratic in an election or Republican in an
Tommy
election?
Thompson.
Tommy Thompson for governor.
No,
before this
presidential.
one. I can't remember.
Reagan 84.
Okay, so great.
So
you
that's a
have-
blue state in my
Really?
definition.
You would judge everything by the presidential election, not
Yes,
the
I
state
would,
elections?
actually.
Well, I don't, frankly.
Okay.
So that being said,
That makes
look
New
at-
Jersey a red
wait,
state
look at-
under your definition.
Look at how he got reelected.
Uh-huh.
Okay, first of all, he got elected. They had the recall. Nobody tracked the recall like I did, and the reason he got elected, you had numerous Democrats going, I don't like this guy, but I think this is unfair. And they voted for him because they thought that he was being mistreated. I got to tell you something. Everybody agrees that had he had to run in a presidential election year for re-election, he would have gotten his you-know-what whipped.
Hypotheticals,
but
right?
he didn't.
He just
Well,
keeps
Right.
winning
You-
in
right.
a
You
blue
would
state.
struggle to
There's-
find
Something-
any expert of either side who doesn't agree with
the
that.
And on that
response-
note,
The
Hank?
response was the public sector union, but pensions and health care costs. That's why he got worse.
Okay, that is our last word. So coming up next, it's potluck time, a much happier time here in the Daily Wrap. This is the Daily Wrap only on Newsmax TV. Hey, welcome back to the Daily Wrap. It's potluck time. This is the part of the show where we go around the table and share our favorite tales of the day. Heather Hansen, you are up first because, and if I may, that is your best dress so far.
Thank you very much. I'll have to find some more in different colors, right? Those bright colors. My potluck is about the judge who entered the preliminary injunction against the administration for this whole amnesty thing. He is PO'd with the administration right now because he thinks they lied to him. What happened
Turned
was
overtly is PO'd.
PO'd. He is, you know what? And the thing is, an angry judge can be very dangerous. And this judge is definitely angry and may get more angry on March
looks angry.
19th when that's Judge Hannon. He's the one that entered the injunction that said that the amnesty order cannot go forward. And in the, as we know, President Obama entered this order in November. In December, the plaintiffs filed a lawsuit, 26 states, saying that this can't happen. From December on, judges make schedules and they say, how long do you need to enter your briefs and so forth. Here, the party said, well, nothing's going to happen. There's no problem with putting it out a little bit further. So the judge agreed to that, entered his injunction in February. Come to find out last week that the administration actually extended the deferred action for 100,000 people by a year during that period of time. So somebody was telling this judge that there was nothing going on and nothing was changing, while 100,000 people were getting an extra year under the order that the president had passed in November.
Wow.
Now the judge is pushed back everything. He's going to have a hearing on this on March 19th, and he's going to determine whether or not there was actually some malfeasance here, some lying to him. And if there was, they better watch out. But it goes to the point that we've been talking about over this week and over some time, where this administration is not straightforward. They don't tell the truth. They try to sneak things in under the wire, try to sneak things in behind people's backs. And ultimately, it has to be our judicial system that steps in. It has to be letters that may not be addressed to the right person in order to make congressmen's views known, rather than handling things pursuant to the law, pursuant to the Constitution.
And you have the evidence that that's what happened here. They lied.
We will know on March 19th.
Well, you're talking like we
Well,
already
Rick,
have. You
we
already
know
have
for
it.
sure that they represented to the
but
judge.
but you just said they're underhanded. This that you must have the evidence that they lied on purpose.
Maybe their pants are on fire. Liar, liar, pants on fire.
I mean, my answer would have been maybe they did, or maybe the right hand didn't know what the left hand was
Well,
doing.
and that's
I'm
a
not quite
problem,
sure,
too.
but I'm
That's
not
a
sure how you're
problem, too.
reaching all these conclusions when we don't know anything yet.
Well, but we know enough to say
What do
that
we know?
we know that the judge, that they represented to the judge that there's nothing going on, there's no reason, and in fact they asked for more time. They asked for an additional month.
who's the
and
they?
During the people who represent
Right.
the administration.
And you've never, as
If
a
they're
lawyer,
not
had a
talking-
case where you didn't know all the data when you made an honest representation to a court.
If you ought to know whether or not your client is doing something that's contrary to what an injunction may possibly
100,000
be.
people is it?
100,000 people is it.
They may
It's
have
100,000
they
too
may
many.
have outright lied, but we don't know. Why don't we wait for the hearing for all this?
Can we promise to revisit this in,
Yeah.
I believe,
March 19th?
March
Yeah,
19th? That's not
absolutely.
too long away.
Yeah.
Okay, Heather, I'm going to hold you to that. Hank, you're our second chef.
I'm always amazed by what goes on in Russia and related to Russia, and with the murder of the best opponent to Putin, Nemtsov. Today we learned in the Wall Street Journal, big story about how the governor of Chechnya, now an ally of Putin, has decided that we should salute the killers of Nemtsov, which tells you that when George Bush looked into Putin's eyes, he must have seen something the rest of the world didn't. And when Barack Obama said it's going to be fine, he was wrong. This guy is a stone cold killer. There are no consciences in that part of the world. And when we deal with people there, we need to be very, very careful, more careful than we thought before. And the fact that they have nuclear weapons pointed at us makes it even more dangerous.
Do you think that Ukraine's going to be solved anytime soon? Do you think he's going to be more aggressive? And I'm not saying going to Poland,
I
but
blame Barack Obama for failing to renegotiate the security arrangements with Ukraine and Poland from day one. And the end result is that Putin said, oh yes, I want to get back into Europe like everybody since, let's see, the early czars. I want to go right back into Europe, and the best way to get there is right through Ukraine and right through Poland. If I were the Poles, on account of this and this craziness today, I'd be sweating all night long. And they have every right to feel that way. And this country and this president have let them down significantly.
Well, and
Go ahead.
the fact that they're trying to say that this death was due to some renegade ISIS member who did it on the basis of religion as opposed to something else, it's just absolutely crazy.
Well,
and
you know,
it's
the
feeding
gun
into what's
came
going
from
on.
heaven, the knives fall from the skies. It's very simple. These things happen. It was just one of those things. A bad break.
I hope nobody expects me to defend Putin. I'm not gonna.
But maybe the only way you stop Putin is from within, just like communism failed in the late 80s, because the Russian economy is not doing very well.
No, the economy's a mess. Everything you just said, I think, is exactly right, including Obama's mistake at the outset. Except it's fair to point back that similar mistakes were made going back a little bit.
No question about it.
We have not done a good job in dealing with the Russians, and there may be nothing we can do about it right now.
Because
You're
to
not going to
Last
do the
word.
next administration.
To your point, the propaganda there is so great that it's going to be really tough to overcome it, I think.
I think we'll be dealing with Mr. Putin for quite some time. He stays in shape, not going anywhere, it appears. So we have to take a quick break, but don't worry. When we come back, we'll have even more potluck for you, including mine. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax TV. We're on DirecTV. We're on Bios and Dish as well, from a warm New York City. And welcome back to Daily Wrap. I'm Joe Concha. If you're just joining us, we're in the middle of our potluck, where we're sharing our favorite stories of the day. Rick Unger, I hope you thought something tasty this evening.
I brought a question for everybody. Is it time to put women on money? All these years of having currency, and so far all we have represented on money is a bunch of white men. Now, this is not an original thought. There is an organization out there that is working very hard to make the change there. And interestingly, because what they're proposing doesn't create a new denomination, doesn't have to go to Congress. This can be done by the president without Congress suing him. So the $20 bill is the one that's being targeted with good reason. Andrew Jackson is currently on there, a man who really had little to speak for in his administration except for killing over thousands of Indians in the most inhumane way. And there are a number of women being contemplated as potential replacements. Do we want to show some of those women?
Let's take a look. Ooh.
Oh, that's Rosa Parks. That would be
Good
a great
choice,
choice.
Rick. Good
yeah,
choice.
Yeah. Who else do we have? Oh, Eleanor Roosevelt.
fan.
Wow, but
Big
who would be
fan.
the best
She
choice,
too. Who
Rick?
would be the best choice? Let's see who would be. Oh, my goodness. My goodness.
Look at that.
Isn't that
It's
wonderful?
our own Heather Hansen.
Isn't
now,
that just the
obvious.
sweetest thing? Yeah.
Well, you know what? Whether it be Heather Hansen, Eleanor Roosevelt, Rosa Parks, is it time to put women on money?
I don't like the idea of taking Andrew Jackson off. I disagree
Why?
Listen, I think that he's part of our history. His supporters started the Democratic Party, which is the party
I
that
understand, but
so-
he was a bad dude.
Well, but you know,
Why do
you
we
can
wanna
look back
honor
on
him?
a lot of people in our history and say that. But let's take that aside. I do like the idea of adding women to this part of our history. I also think if you look at that website, it's Women on 20s, I
Yes,
think is what it
yes,
is,
yes.
and see the list of women.
Yeah.
It's a great study of female history
Of
and the
important
different
women in
women who,
America.
and many names
Yeah.
that you might recognize and not remember what it is that they did. I actually went through each woman on the list to make sure that I
Mm-hmm.
knew who they were, and it was a good way for me to sort of remember women influence.
Was there a certain presidential potential candidate on there named Carly who should be on the $20 bill? Because we know you're a big fan.
I bring her up
Actually,
a lot.
former
No,
HP
definitely not.
CEO.
She's
Definitely
already
not.
on her own money.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, I've
She's
seen
her
it.
own
Yeah.
I want to go back to this thing about bashing, Jackson. He could dance well. He was a good dancer.
He was a good
Yeah,
dancer.
yeah, good dancer.
Catching parties.
He was
Well,
very
in
good at
that case,
partying.
I
Brought
take
in
it
the
all
barrels
back.
of booze.
Take it all back.
He knew Fred Astaire well. They used to Ginger Rogers. They were friends together. Come on,
They hung out
getting
at the
women on
Stork
money.
Club,
They hung
yeah.
around together. They killed storks together at the Stork Club, which was called Stork Club. No, seriously. I mean, yeah, getting women on money, good idea. Question is who. Heather would be, great. I mean, but Rosa Parks would be terrific.
I like Eleanor
And there are
Roosevelt.
certainly other women.
Yeah.
Sure.
Betsy Ross would be the best.
Yeah.
Betsy
Harriet
Ross, very,
Tubman.
very good point. Very good point. And a preview of yay or nay. Yay for Heather Hansen
Yay.
on a $1 bill for other
Oh,
reasons.
nice.
So
$1.
finally, it's my turn. And the growing stupidity of criminals in America, we're going to talk to you about tonight. Nobody likes criminals, but stupid criminals are a whole different story. Take, for instance, this 21-year-old Nebraska genius who decided to hide his 11.6 grams of weed in a Land O'Lakes sour cream container and marked it not weed. Yes. When asked why he would do such a thing, a 21-year-old simply answered, quote, "I don't know, I just thought I was being funny. Inside joke of myself, I guess." It certainly was. An inside joke. Well, we all certainly got a good laugh at his stupidity, but I wonder if his parents think he's so hilarious. The jokester was cited and released for possession of less than an ounce of marijuana. How about this next duo? The Roman Colosseum has seen some pretty gruesome things in its day, but can it stand up to two American tourists, two female 20-something tourists from California, decide to leave their mark on the ancient structure, but not with a boring old selfie? Oh no, which they managed to take, don't worry. Nope, the pair decided to carve their initials into the wall of the Colosseum. The pair apologized, saying, "We," and this is a quote, "apologize for what we did, we regret it, but we did not imagine it was something so serious we'll remember for a lifetime." Word of advice, when apologizing, never use the B word. And I wonder if they think this is serious. Instead of, a slap on the wrist, probably should have to be enslaved and then fight for their death. Fight to the death, just like Russell Crowe did in Gladiator. So anyway, just an excuse to show Gladiator, guys. Who are we kidding? Finally, this guy takes the cake. A 39-year-old Ohio man actually called 911 to report that his wife was trying to steal his cocaine from him. Take a listen.
Alliance Police and Fire, where's your emergency? What's going on?
I don't know. Me and my lady's having a misunderstanding and about something I bought. I bought some cocaine earlier, and she wanted to take my cocaine, and then she wanted to treat me like.
Okay, so now hopefully you're following. Not only did he openly admit that he was in possession of cocaine, he was charged with 2 misdemeanors, drug possession, and inappropriate use of 911, you think? The best part is that when cops came by, they discovered he already had a warrant for his arrest for 2013 and failing to pay hundreds of dollars in earlier court cases and failing to appear for community service. Come on, guys, you could do better than this. So that is my potluck. We are getting stupider by the day, especially our criminals. Anyway, that's all for potluck. Yay or nay is next. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax TV. And welcome back to a very Nantucket Red part of the Daily Wrap. It's time for Yay or Nay. Have you ever failed your New Year's, well, have you already failed your New Year's resolution to hit the gym and cut back on the booze? Well, we know Rick has, but I have some great news for you all, and particularly those of you who are advocates of being overserved. A new study out by the University of Alberta found resveratrol, that's found in red wine, can improve a person's heart, muscles, and bones the same way a good old-fashioned visit to the gym can. So, should we all skip the gym right now, crack open a nice Chianti with some fava beans, right? Instead of working out. I mean, is wine better than exercise?
Lose the fava beans, and it's a mega yay. Of course we should.
Okay, I had a feeling you'd say that.
I think you work out in the morning, have the wine at dinner, and you're good to go.
I think you should get on the treadmill with the wine, the fava beans, and see what you can do. Just keep running. Be a juggler. Juggler's very good. I like
Get
that.
it all together.
That's a very good point. Can you do that, you think? You think the wine
No,
will spill?
it
You would
works
need it in a
really
sippy
well.
cup or something.
Works really well. Just
I-
lose the treadmill,
Okay.
and it's all good.
You need the treadmill. You need the action. You know
It's
what I mean?
good for you.
You know what kills me? I'm a yay, of course, but every other day there's if you drink but don't work out, then you're more healthy. If you work out but don't drink, it's just every
I know.
day.
Every
We
day the
always
rules
buy
change.
it. And I put it on the show, so I bought it.
Fortunately, they all agree now that coffee's good for you.
True,
That's
true.
right.
So, are today's parents raising a generation of narcissists? It's one thing to tell a white lie when your child shows you their macaroni art or practices a violin a little off key, but do compliments and praise go too far? Well, according to findings published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, there is a difference between boosting self-esteem and creating a narcissistic monster. Instead of saying your child is special, researchers recommend telling them they are hard workers. So, are we raising a generation of self-centered narcissists? Yay or nay, Heather Hansen?
No, I think this is a little bit silly. I think it's good to tell kids that they're special, and so is everyone else. Everyone's special in their own way, and all that happy stuff.
But that came from
Joe.
the heart. Rick.
You're special.
Thank you.
Right.
Of course, there's a special class at school for special
Oh,
kids.
good
You know that.
Lord.
Please,
Yeah.
And we'll see you on YouTube, everybody. Hank, stone-faced.
A generation of narcissists, just because people walk around all day long with things in their ears, don't talk to anybody, don't wear ties, don't behave properly, think we're supposed to support them until the end of time. You think they're narcissists? I don't know why you would say such a thing.
Yeah. Well, wait, give me okay. You may have a point. You may have a point. I'm a yay. I'm not for give every kid a trophy in school. You got to earn it. And a little failure is the only way to learn. Fear is the greatest motivator, and every other
He should know.
metaphor and analogy I could think of right now. Finally, thousands of Americans well over the age of 100 applied for and received Social Security in recent years. Yes, not because they're working and living longer, but because of Social Security fraud. A recent watchdog review found that at least 6.5 million active Social Security numbers belonging to people at least 112 years old are surprisingly not at room temperature, by the way. They are receiving benefits despite passing on long ago. And interestingly, only 35 known individuals worldwide have reached the age of 112. So here's my question. Should Social Security, at least the administration of it, be privatized because of all this fraud, because the government clearly isn't keeping track of what's going on? Rick.
Shouldn't be privatized, but government does have to do a much better job of cracking down on this. It's nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's an argument to be made that it should be privatized because this is just unacceptable, waste of money, waste of resources, ridiculous.
Oh, I would definitely trust the private sector to do a much better job of not wasting money, not getting indicted, and not making trouble. I would definitely.
And not keeping it all.
And not keeping it all. I mean, based upon what we see of indictments on a daily basis, Wall Street shenanigans, I would definitely trust those guys. The people that gave us 2008 can certainly destroy this altogether.
Yeah.
Well, the government runs the post office, and that isn't exactly a friendly place. The DMV, it's not exactly the best
Well, look,
run place in the world as
government,
well.
government does
VA.
not
The
operate.
VA runs the government.
Wait, government doesn't operate for a profit, so it makes no sense to not acknowledge that it's never going to be primarily efficient. It doesn't operate for a profit. However, when you put people's Social Security money in the hands of people who do operate for a profit, you have to be a little bit concerned as to how they may make up their profits on years where profits aren't so good.
Do you think Social Security will be around when you hit retirement age?
You know,
your Social Security?
I do. I don't know how efficient it will be. I don't know how many 112-year-olds are going to be eating away at it during that time. I mean, there's people applying for jobs with those Social Security numbers. It's ridiculous. I do think it'll be around in some form.
I actually have a book that I saved. It was published in 1974, and I got it that year, telling me how Social Security would be broke within the next 2 years. So I saved
Really?
the book, yes.
Yeah, I think
You've been
that's-
hearing this forever.
Because you keep hearing it's going to not be solvent by 2026, 2024.
Jack LaLanne is still collecting. He's been dead for a while.
He's
but
actually
he's collecting.
been dead
He's
before
And he's been
Right.
working out.
Please,
told
can we
him.
end it on Jack LaLanne? The first time that name has ever been said in the history of this network. So that's the show for this evening. Thank you, panel. You all look lovely this evening, and we appreciate you joining us, and thank you at home for stopping by. Tune in for more Daily Wrap right here on the Daily Max. I'm Joe Concha. Bye-bye.